Before painting plasterboard or drywall, before you open any paint, damp cloth, fingers, and just wipe over. If there's any dirt, with a dry cloth or a brush, give the whole board a wipe down, dry cloth, just to remove the dust. This is what I'll be using. Zinser bin, and that's the main reason why. When you open this, make sure that it's thoroughly mixed up. Maybe little bits of solids on the bottom, a bit of sediment that wants mixing in, a lot of pigment settled to the bottom. Also, this has been opened. The new tin is quite thin. Check the viscosity to make sure it's thin enough. I've got a small amount of methylated spirits, so I will thin this down. So in here I've got my brushes. So just possibly half an inch, a little bit more there. You can always top up. Splash of methylated spirits just to thin that down a little bit. So I've not a lot of cutting in, so I don't need to leave much in the bottom of here. So now transfer, leaving some in, just a little bit. Again, I've only a small amount of cutting in. And then in here, down at the bottom, I've got my roller. Mini roller. Sponge rollers will just degrade and fall apart within minutes really, so use an old mini roller for emulsion paint. Now I'm ready for getting some on. Cutting in first, and when you're applying this, just like mist coating, don't leave any thick edges, just knock them back, just literally smoothing that off. Thinning it off just allows it to soak in. Becomes a lot easier to work with. Any paper that's furred up on any joints or any edges, if you do have any, this will harden it up. Before I start rolling, just make sure this is worked in. What bit of paint was left in that paint kettle, I'll put into the scuttle. Starting just a little ways out. not getting too far ahead, but just making sure that you lay this off and don't leave any thick edges. About each time you put some on, make sure you don't leave anything that's too heavy, too thick. And then beyond that, it's just move at a fairly quick rate. The roller may skid slightly on you as you're applying it, but a few seconds and as it's absorbing in, you'll just spread that bit easier. So remembering not to go too far back on yourself. Basically that's it, just keep going. And once you've finished, if you've been rolling on the wall, there shouldn't be much left on there. Just make sure there's nothing left in the roller, not too much. Just pop that there for a second. Put this away. So put that in the bottom and make sure it sits on the bottom, not standing up. That'll be okay for next use. I'll pop that over there. Get my brush. Oop, nearly. Now I can wipe this away. Just wiping the last bits in now. Just make sure nothing left in the corners. Just means this will dry out a lot quicker. And then again into the bottom of there. And that'll be okay till next use. What we'll do is next time I come to use this, open it up, spot of methylated spirits in the bottom. Only a couple of thimbles full. Pop the lid on, give it a bit of a shake, and then the methylated spirits, the fumes, will work up that paint again and they'll be soft enough to be ready for use. Once this is dry, any large bits that may have gone onto the finish should just rub out. Just with your fingers, just rub them out. Anything finer, any little bits of edges of paper, pad, and hand, and just lightly go over. when you've sanded, remember the damp cloth, clean hand, just see. So now, before I do any painting, before I open paint, I'll just go over, just dust it off. This time damp cloth, just picking up any dust, that'll be okay. I've got my paint out. This is now dry. Damp cloth. It's also clean. If you needed to do any filling after you've sanded and just wiped it down, then any screw holes you can go round filling. If when it's drying the screw holes have got a bit more paint than the surface, it may take a little bit longer for it to dry out. So with a small brush, clean dry brush, go around the screw holes, just removing some of the paint, okay, and a small pot with a little bit of methylated spirits. Wash the brush, dry it on a cloth, and then keep going at the rest. I'm ready for painting. So by sealing that paper, with this being a water-based emulsion paint, which we'll want to absorb into the paper and possibly sit wet for a while, the sealing with the bin primer will prevent any damage to the paper. Now if you were using an oil-based finish, an oil-based paint, then you could use diluted, thinned down undercoat, which would do the same job, and then apply your top coats after that, but you would have to wait quite a while. You could also use this, and it would be dry within an hour, and you could get your first coat of oil paint on. Alternatively, if you wanted to put a texture on this, so whether it be Artex or what, fixing bricks to it, false bricks for internal work, then using the Drywall Pro 2-in-1, which Zinsa do. We'll take a look at that in a minute. Okay, with the Zinsa Drywall Pro, you can paper on it as well. With this, once this is dry and fully cure, you could paper onto this. So this is a scrubbable paint. So Dulux EasyCare do a washable, scrubbable paint. Valspar, quite a few. Farrow and Ball do a really good one. Once that's cured and dry, then if you ever were to paper on it, you could just put paper straight on. Well, that's okay. So we'll just have a look at the Drywall Pro. So in the Zinsa product guide, Drywall Pro, water based. So where's my thumb there? That's the one. Now this does take 30 minutes to be touch dry, 3 hours to recoat, 3 days before it's fully cure. But again, with this, you can wallpaper onto it, apply texture onto it, gives it time to dry, stops the water soaking in. This will also do it, and also an oil based undercoat, thinned out, but the bin primer is certainly the fastest way of doing this. Before I go, the board wanted to get in on the act, so scrubbable paint and ordinary matte paint. This will resist moisture, so if you're papering over it, for that amount of time that the paper's wet, this will withstand the moisture, because it's not going to go that way, it'll want to dry out. So with some vinyl papers it may take that a little bit longer, so that'll resist that. Obviously this doesn't want to resist anything, so with the paste wetting it and sitting for a while, it can affect it, so especially joints as well. Use something that's going to resist the moisture.